Across Israel, another difficult night underscored how fragile the current calm really is. In the central corridor, Tel Aviv and the surrounding districts, warning sirens again sent residents running for shelter as Iranian missiles and Israel's interceptors turned the night sky into a strobing canopy of white flashes and distant booms. People who have learned to read those sounds almost instinctively describe the same sequence: the phone alerts, the sirens, the sprint to stairwells and protected rooms, the thud of doors sealing shut, and then the waiting to find out whether the next sound is only an interception overhead or something that lands close enough to shake the building. By morning, the immediate details begin to settle: where debris fell, which streets were closed, which buildings were damaged, which fires were linked to falling fragments, and how quickly crews were able to reach the scenes. But the deeper story is harder to measure because it isn't only about the blast marks and broken glass. It's about what repeated nights like this do to a city's nerves and routines, to how families sleep, how businesses plan, how emergency responders pace themselves, and how a population calibrates the idea of safety under pressure. Israel's leadership remains unchanged. At the top, Benjamin Netanyahu is still the prime minister. In Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian remains president. And above him, Iran's most powerful position, the supreme leader, is now held by Mojtaba Khamenei, who was named after the death of his father, Ali Khamenei, during the opening phase of the current war. Those political facts matter because for civilians looking up at an active sky, the conflict isn't abstract. It is shaped by decisions made in capitals, but it is felt in apartment corridors and underground parking garages. What unfolded overnight was not a single isolated exchange. It fit into a pattern that people in central Israel have come to recognize as the new normal. Repeated Iranian salvos over a stretch of weeks, repeated rounds of interception, and repeated moments where at least some part of the incoming threat, a missile, a fragment, or debris from interception, still reaches the ground. That does not mean Israel's air defenses have collapsed. Israel's layered systems have been intercepting many threats, but the past weeks have made one reality unavoidable. Even a strong defense can be stressed by sustained barrages, and even a high interception rate can still leave visible consequences in a dense urban area. Tel Aviv is not just another target on a map. It is a major population center, an economic hub, and a symbol of Israel's daily life. When sirens sound there, it does more than disrupt a night's sleep. It sends a message that the confrontation is not confined to distant border areas. It is reaching into the heart of the country. For residents, the most punishing part is the routine itself. It begins before anything lands. Parents have adjusted bedtime rituals so children can move quickly. Some families sleep in clothes they can run in. Many keep shoes, water, and flashlights by the bed. In older buildings, people negotiate, sometimes nightly, who has access to the best protected spaces, who needs help down the stairs, who is responsible for neighbors who live alone. In newer buildings, protected rooms are a feature of the design, but fear still compresses everyone into the same narrow spaces. Families huddled together, listening to the muffled world outside. Then the sky starts to speak. You hear the deep, hard punctuation of interceptors. You see flashes that are too bright for a city night, followed by the rolling delay of sound. From certain angles, the lights can look almost like fireworks, and that visual similarity can be disorienting because the mind briefly tries to place the scene into something familiar. But there is nothing celebratory about it. People stare upward because they can't help it, but else. Oh, because the eye is searching for clues. Is the interception complete, or is something still falling? In recent weeks, residents and emergency services have repeatedly faced the second part of the night: what happens after the interceptions. Debris is not harmless. A fragment doesn't need to be a full missile warhead to cause damage when it falls into a neighborhood of tightly packed buildings, narrow streets, parked cars, and exposed power lines. Fires can ignite from impacts or from secondary effects: a burning fragment hitting a rooftop, a car, a fuel source, or a utility connection. Even when the physical damage is limited to a small area, the disruption spreads fast. A blocked road can delay ambulances. A damaged building can force evacuations. A downed power line can create hazards for multiple blocks, and the entire neighborhood can become a cordoned-off zone while bomb disposal teams and engineers assess what's safe. That is why the public conversation has shifted. It is no longer only a question of whether defenses are working in the abstract. It is about whether the defenses can keep absorbing repeated pressure night after night. and what the city experiences on the ground when even a small percentage of incoming threats produces visible damage. This is the difference between military effectiveness and civilian perception. A defense system can be highly capable and still leave residents feeling exposed because civilians don't experience a conflict as a set of ratios. They experience it as a lived environment. Did the building shake? Did the siren come at 2 a.m. again? Did the child wake up screaming? Did smoke rise at dawn? Did the street fill with sirens? Is the bus route canceled? Is the school opening late? Is the shelter accessible for someone who can't run? The stress is cumulative. One night of sirens can be described as a crisis. Several nights close together become a rhythm. And once a rhythm sets in, behavior changes. Businesses shorten hours. Restaurants and cafes that once thrived late into the evening become quieter earlier. Event planners build contingency plans. Employers adjust expectations for staff who may have spent half the night in shelters. Building managers check locks, lighting, and access routes to protected spaces. Hospitals and clinics keep heightened readiness, anticipating the possibility of injuries, not just from direct impacts, but from falls on stairways, anxiety episodes, and the chaos that comes when alarms hit. And for emergency responders, the work becomes both urgent and uncertain. Fire crews, rescue teams, medical personnel, and utility workers are often dispatched while the situation is still unfolding. They may be moving while sirens remain possible, while new alerts could send them back under cover. They must distinguish between sites that are safe to enter and sites that may contain unexploded remnants. They may need to evacuate residents before they know the full structural condition of a building. They may have to prioritize fires that threaten to spread quickly in dense neighborhoods. All of it happens in darkness, with incomplete information and with residents who are exhausted and frightened. Even when casualty numbers are low compared to what could happen in an unprotected urban strike, the disruption can still be major. Minor injuries from rushing to shelter can mount. People trip on stairs. Doors slam on fingers. Panic triggers medical complications. And when the night is interrupted repeatedly, the fatigue becomes its own risk factor for drivers, for workers, for anyone who has to function the next morning as if life is ordinary. But life is not ordinary. It is being reshaped. In Tel Aviv, ordinary used to mean evenings out, open streets, the hum of a city that rarely fully sleeps. Now a quiet night can turn suddenly into a high-pressure emergency. A family might be eating dinner, a nurse might be between shifts, a security guard might be on patrol, and within seconds they're moving into protected spaces, listening for the next cue. That sense of fragility is what lingers after the smoke clears. It also carries strategic meaning. When Iranian launches are repeatedly seen reaching Israeli urban skies, the message is not purely military. It is psychological and political, a way of showing that even the most defended areas cannot guarantee an undisturbed night. And in a conflict where both sides understand the value of perception, that matters almost as much as physical damage. At the same time, responsible language matters. Visible fires, debris, and damaged buildings do not automatically mean Israel's defense architecture has failed. The more accurate description is that it is under sustained stress, functioning, intercepting, and reducing harm, while still unable to eliminate every consequence of repeated salvos. That distinction is important because exaggeration obscures the reality civilians are living. People are. Not describing a city in collapse. Tel Aviv is still functioning. Schools and offices continue. Stores reopen. Municipal teams clear debris. Volunteers help neighbors. Public guidance remains consistent. Move quickly, stay sheltered, avoid debris, report suspicious objects, and allow emergency crews to work. But endurance is becoming central to the story. In modern conflict, endurance is not just about stockpiles and hardware. It is about stamina, the capacity of a society to keep operating under intermittent shock. It is about whether people still believe tomorrow will be manageable, even after another broken night. It is about whether public confidence holds, whether political leaders can sustain a strategy, whether fear turns into anger, whether resilience becomes a rallying force or a strain that fractures trust. Inside Israel, that endurance question inevitably feeds political pressure. Each new night of disruption raises the same difficult arguments. How sustainable is the current posture? What response is being considered? What risks come with escalation? What risks come with restraint? For decision makers, that is a tightrope. A stronger response can widen the war. A more limited response can look inadequate to a public that is once again sleeping in shelters. And because Tel Aviv is so visible, what happens there doesn't stay local. It becomes part of the national mood. For the people on the ground, though, the debate often feels far away when the siren begins. In those moments, the priorities narrow to the most immediate human needs. Get everyone inside, account for the children, check on the elderly neighbor, grab the phone, bring water, keep calm. Parents learn how to speak in a steady voice even when they don't feel steady. Couples develop routines. One person gathers essentials, the other checks stores and messages. Friends text each other short questions that have become a kind of code. You safe? Where are you? Shelter okay? People who barely spoke before start to recognize each other by these shared nights. And then when the all clear comes, if it comes, there is a second wave, stepping out, listening for news, scanning social media, calling family, looking for official updates, trying to understand what happened and where. This is where the city's collective fatigue becomes visible. Not everyone goes straight back to bed. Some can't. Some sit in the protected room for an extra half hour, afraid of a second wave. Others wander back to their apartments and stare at the ceiling, waiting for the next alert. The body can be exhausted while the mind refuses to shut down. Morning brings its own rituals now. People check for broken windows and stairwells and lobbies. They look for scorched marks on rooftops. They take alternate routes because police have blocked off areas where debris fell. They listen to radio updates in the car, not for traffic, but for security instructions. They make coffee and try to speak Norma, LY, to their children, even as they calculate whether tonight will bring another cycle. And on some streets, the signs are unmistakable. Shattered glass on sidewalks, blackened patches where something burned, twisted metal fragments lying where they were found before specialists removed them, municipal workers sweeping while residents watch in silence. In a dense city, one impact can ripple widely, not just physically, but emotionally. People imagine what could have happened if it had landed a few meters closer, if someone had been outside, if the timing had been different. This is why the story cannot be told only in numbers. Yes, there are missiles, interceptors, and defense layers. There are official statements and strategic calculations, but the central reality is simpler and heavier. Ordinary civilians are being pulled again and again into an emergency routine that interrupts sleep, alters behavior, and gradually changes the meaning of normal life. And so this latest night in itself may not be a single turning point. It was another chapter in a draining cycle. Sirens sounded across central Israel. People rushed into shelters. Interceptions lit the sky over Tel Aviv, and by early hours, responders were moving through multiple sites dealing with fires, debris, and damage. By daylight, the city could begin to count the visible effects and try once again to reset for another day. But the deeper impact lasts longer than smoke. It remains in tired parents who keep one ear open at night, in children who learn the geography of their building by the quickest route to shelter, in the elderly who measure time not by calendars but by the distance between sirens, in the emergency workers who return to stations knowing the next call may come before they've even sat down, in the quiet exhaustion that spreads to workplaces and schools after too many broken nights. That is what makes this moment significant. It is not only about how many projectiles were launched or how many were intercepted. It is about what repeated nights like this do to daily life, to public confidence, and to a city's sense of safety. By morning, damage can be assessed, but the longer story is written in disrupted routines, strained nerves, and the growing awareness that even when the defenses hold, the pressure still finds ways to be felt on the ground.